In this video today, we're looking at rational functions again, and we're looking at graphing reciprocal functions. So let's have a look at what we're going to start with. So we're asked to graph the following, function. F at x equals 1 over x squared minus 4. Well, let's pick a color. All right, so let's start by factoring our denominator. So our denominator is a difference of squares. It factors really nicely. So factors as x minus 2 times x plus 2. So first thing we need to do is find our x-intercepts. So our x-intercepts occur when our function equals 0. So we need to solve for x. Well, this is not possible, so we don't have any x-intercepts. So therefore, no x-intercepts. So recall fraction, which is what we have. A rational function is a fraction. A fraction equals 0 when the numerator is 0. But it's not possible for our numerator to equal 0, so no x-intercepts. So our y-intercepts, let's figure out our y-intercepts. So our y-intercepts occur when we plug 0 in for x and we solve. So when x equals 0, f at 0 is 1 over negative 4. So therefore y equals negative 1 over negative 4 is our y-intercept. Okay. Next, we're going to look at our vertical asymptote. So our vertical asymptote occurs at the x values when our function's undefined. So our function's undefined when the denominator equals 0, and that occurs when x equals 2 or x equals negative 2. So these are our two vertical asymptotes. Next, we're going to look at the horizontal asymptote. So our horizontal asymptote occurs when we look at the behavior of the function as x tends to positive infinity or negative infinity. So the limit as x approaches positive or negative infinity. Well, let's see what happens. So our function is 1 over x squared minus 4. As x gets very large, we have a constant 1 over a very large number, and that just equals 0. So therefore, y equals 0 is our horizontal asymptote. Our domain is a set of all real numbers such that x does not equal negative 2 or 2. So these are the two values that make up our vertical asymptote. And our range is a set of all y values such that y does not equal 0. And y equals 0 is our horizontal asymptote. Okay, so let's scroll over to the right. And now finally, we need to determine when our function's positive or negative. All right, so let's draw our number line. And let's consider, which points should we consider? Let's consider our values when x equals negative 2 and x equals 2. So these are the values when we have our vertical asymptotes. So remember, our vertical asymptote is when x equals negative 2, and we have another one when x equals 2. So our intervals are when x is less than negative 2, x is between negative 2 and 2, and when x is greater than 2. What are our factors? Our factors are x minus 2 and x plus 2. Okay, and our function is 1 over x squared minus 4. Okay, so let's see what's going on these intervals. So x minus 2 is negative when x is less than negative 2. Negative when x is between negative 2 and 2, and positive when x is greater than 2. X plus 2 is negative when x is less than negative 2. Positive when x is between negative 2 and 2, and positive when x is greater than 2. our function is positive when x is less than -2, because the product of two positive values is positive. Negative when x is between -2 and 2, because we have the product of a negative and a positive value. And positive when x is greater than 2. All right, so now I think we have enough information we can graph. So let's draw our axes. Okay. Let's put in our vertical asymptotes. Let's pick red's a nice color for vertical asymptotes. Okay, we have one at -2 and 2. Again, this is just a sketch. Let's label some of the information on the graph. So we have our y-axis, our x-axis, a vertical asymptote at x equals 2, a vertical asymptote x equals -2. Let's also put in our y-intercept at -1/4. And now let's start graphing. So, as we saw, when x is less than -2, our function is positive. Okay. Okay, yes. And our, we forgot to indicate our horizontal asymptote, which is y equals 0. Always forget that one when it's the x-axis, but we can't forget that one. Makes a big difference. Okay, that's one piece of our function. Now, when x is between -2 and 2, our function is negative. It looks something like that. And then when our function is when x is greater than 2, our function is also positive again, and looks a little like that. So all these green pieces make up our function, which is y equals, made a bit of a mess here. Let's make some room. Y equals 1/x² minus 4. Good. Okay. So we have one question left. Y equals 1/√of x. Let's have a look at this one. So again, our x-intercepts. We always start with our x-intercepts. Do we have any? No. None. Not possible for this function to equal 0, because our numerator is a constant. What about the y-intercept? Again, none. Because if you plug a 0 in for x, we're dividing by 0, and that's not legal. Let's see, we have a vertical asymptote. So our vertical asymptote occurs when x equals 0, because can't divide by 0. Or horizontal asymptote, when does that occur? Now, if we let x go off to infinity in our function, either in the positive or negative direction. Well, okay, let's consider this. Can we go in the negative direction? No. So and why is that? That's because we cannot divide by a negative number. Sorry, we cannot take the square root of a negative number. So therefore, we're only looking at the positive x-axis and what occurs as x goes to positive infinity. And in this case, we end up with 0. A 1 over a very big number, any constant over a very big number is just 0. So let's see what our domain is. So, sorry, why don't we just make a statement here? Therefore, y equals 0 is a horizontal asymptote. Good. And then our domain is a set of all real numbers such that x must be greater than 0, because we can't take the square root of a negative number. Our range a set of all y values. Well, it looks like we're taking the square root of a value, and we're taking the positive square root. So let's just assume that. So all our y values are going to be positive. So it looks like we're just dealing with that positive quadrant. So let's graph, see what happens. Okay, so we have our let's put in our axes. X and Y axes. We have a horizontal asymptote, vertical asymptote, and they happen to be our X and Y axes. And our function is always positive. So that's our function right there. There's a graph of our function. Y equals 1 over the square root of X. Not too difficult. Great. All right, so that brings us to the end of our video today. If you have any questions, send us a note at info@raisebymarks.com or give us a call day or evening. And thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you again. All right.